Hey there, welcome to the Posit Data Science Hangout. I'm Libby Heron, and this is a recording of our weekly community call that happens every Thursday at 12 p.m. US Eastern Time. If you are not joining us live, you miss out on the amazing chat that's going on. So find the link in the description where you can add our call to your calendar and come hang out with the most supportive, friendly, and funny data community you'll ever experience. Can't wait to see you there. I would love to introduce our guests today. They are Isabel Zimmerman and Davis Vaughan. They are both software engineers here at Posit. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Um, Davis, would you go first and tell us a little bit about what you do and something you like to do for fun?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Davis Vaughan, software engineer at Posit. Things you might know that I work on are the Tidyverse. Like currently, I'm working on the next large dplyr release. I am the co-creator of Air, which is the R formatter that's used in Positron in our studio. And then I also work on most of just the R infrastructure that actually powers Positron. So. That's about me. At home, I'm in my athletic shirt. I really like CrossFit, so I'm generally in the gym 5 times a week. That's my like de-stressor. It's my barbell therapy, as we like to say, after a long work day.
Nice. Oh, I used to do powerlifting and it was the best thing ever, and I miss it every single day. All right, Isabel, how about you?
Hello, everyone. I am Isabel. What am I working on? So I mostly work on the Positron IDE. Like that's probably 99% of my week. So if you have played around with the Python side of the Positron IDE, I've touched really a lot of things. I primarily work on the Python experience. I've also built some packages like the vetiver, and I maintain pins as well. That is the Python flavors of these packages. If you're familiar with the R side of these packages, that is Julia Silgi, who maintains those. I am the Python half. But outside of work, I am actually just on coming back home today within the last 12 hours of like a tour of being a nerd. So I was in Salt Lake City 4 days ago for Dragonsteel Nexus, which is Brandon Sanderson, who's an author, like all of his books and everything, like other sci-fi fantasy books. And then I went from there to Boston, where I was at PyData. So I was talking about Python data science tools over there. And now I'm home. Um, so if I act a little like I've been all over the place in the last 7 days, it's because I have. And I am so excited to be here with everybody today.
I was so excited you're here too. I know when we were talking last week or the week before, I was like, wow, Isabel, you're gonna be loopy when you get to the hangout with us. It's been a long road, but yes, I see we have some Sanderson fans, some Cosmere fans in the chat. I am too. I'm a huge Cosmere nerd. So getting the three of us together because Davis is too, is a little dangerous. We'll try to stay on topic for data science, but if you want to talk about Cosmere books, we are down, all of us. Okay.
And let me say something. And Isabel is
Yes.
modest. She was not just talking at PyData in Boston. She was keynoting at PyData in Boston,
Hey.
which is fantastic.
So modest. Thank you for shouting that out so we can make sure that we all clap. Yes, I'm seeing emojis in, in the Zoom. That's amazing. I have given one lightning talk in my life, and it was the most terrifying thing I ever did. So, keynoting, I cannot imagine. Well, we have so many questions that are already um like just pouring into Slido. So let's hop over to Slido. Oh my gosh, they're coming in real time in waves. Marcos, you bounced off of Way of Kings. Try it again. Give it another
Yeah.
shot. Give it another shot. I actually bounced off of Mistborn book two. It took me a while to get through the middle of it, but then you get to the end and you're like, this is why this is amazing. Okay. Well, there was an anonymous question that came in first that is fantastic. So let's start there. And this is for both of you. So I will hop back and forth. It is, what does the day in the life of an open source dev look like? For more established things like the Tidyverse, is it more maintenance work as opposed to something newer like Positron, where there may be newer features to build? I'm going to throw this to Davis first, since Tidyverse was mentioned, because Davis does work on stuff like dplyr and has proposed several new functions for dplyr in the past year. So he can talk a little bit about that, and then I will hop over to Isabel. And Davis, feel free to talk about the difference between, maintaining something like Tidyverse and building something new like Positron.
Yeah, so as you were talking, I was just pulling up exactly what you're saying. Let's see. Get them up real quick. Um, so yeah, I mean, day in the life of them is not too different. Like it's a lot of either Rust or it's R or it's C. It's just kind of whatever is demanded of the current thing. But like in terms of what I'm working on, sure, dplyr has its like maintenance and whatnot, but there's also fun stuff. Like we are currently working on like these two tidy ups is what we kind of call them. They're like proposals for new ideas. So we've been proposing this idea of like filter out as kind of a additional function that goes with filter. So this is like a new verb for dplyr along with some other vector functions. We can drop a link in a second if you're interested in these. And then there's another one that's like all about like recoding data in the tidyverse. So there's some new recoding functions coming like that expand kind of the case when family to these other ideas about like recoding when you have a lookup table or something like that. So there's lots of new fun things that beyond just like maintenance work that happen in dplyr, but certainly everything on the positron side is new. Like it's all very fun stuff. Sometimes it's harder than the dplyr stuff because it's like this massive like IDE that you have to work on. But I don't know. It's very different. It's very fun. It's all very unique. Every day is different.
Yeah, Marcus put in the chat, like one obvious difference is dplyr has less than 80 open issues and Positron has like 1600. When something is new and also huge, like an IDE is so different than a package full of functions. Yeah, I think that's a big difference. Isabel, what about you? What's a big difference for you between maintaining something that is more established and building something that is brand new and also like software versus a package?
Yeah, I think the tooling is very different. And really the size of team is something that I personally felt like when I was doing vetiver and pins, Python packaging stuff, it was really like Julia was doing the R side, I was doing the Python side, and we were collaborating in that way, but we were getting a lot of impact. And like mostly what we were deciding was what we wanted to do and a little bit more from the community. Positron, we also are super driven by whatever people are giving thumbs up to in GitHub issues. So if you want to see something get fixed in Positron or a new feature in Positron, giving a thumbs up to a GitHub issue is like probably the best way to add signal to something. But the tooling is different. I write TypeScript code, which I had never written for Vetiver or Pins before. But it is a lot of, seeing what people are interested in. It's a lot of Positron's a little bit more setup. Like I had to download a bunch of different things on my computer to get it all running. And the development cycle is a little bit slower on a larger project like an IDE, just because there are way more moving parts, making sure this change doesn't change all of these extensions or the experience in the console versus, your Python script itself. So just a little bit more of like larger scope of what to look for when you're making changes.
That's true. Is it a little bit more reactive as well? Because with Positron, it's built on another framework, and there are all kinds of things that might change that are outside of the scope of your control that you then have to react to make sure that Positron still works with them.
There is a lot of upstream maintenance that we do. Positron is a fork of VS Code, and we also have other places where there is an upstream. So every month we are making changes, not only our changes, but reacting to whatever Microsoft has done on VS Code. And if you ever look through the Positron repository, like those changes are often tens of thousands of lines of code that we have to review every single month. So there is a maintenance burden, working off of a fork as well, being reactive to that.
Absolutely. All right. Let's hop over to another question in Slido, which is from Saptorishi. Sap, would you like to ask your question live? Let's see if Rachel can help me find you and ask you to
Sorry,
unmute.
I was misspelling as I was typing in there. You should be unmuted now.
Thank you. I was trying to unmute myself as well, and I
Sorry,
was
thank you.
I can't do anything. Um, I think my question is more specifically for Davis, unless Isabel, you've also worked on Python R packages. I made my very first R package for the first time last year, and it's like the reason why I got into it was because I had a really like organic thing that I'd just grown into. So a lot of functions that I was writing over time, and I was like, okay, this needs to be brought into a better place. Um, if you guys have worked on building your own R packages, like what got you into building it, and what were the resources that you guys relied on?
So,
That
are you saying like what got me into building our packages in the first place, or is that the question?
that is the question. Yes.
Okay. Um, I think R packages are just like the vehicle for doing really cool things in R. So it was just this desire to like build really neat things. Like when I started at Posit, it was our studio, and when I started then, it was wanting to work with Max Kuhn on like building out tidy models. So he had this big vision of like, I want to build tidy models. And I was like, that sounds amazing. Like I would love to join you. And R packages are just like the vehicle for sharing those kind of like things with the community. So I really enjoy like all the tooling that we've built around it, like dev tools and use this, make it so easy to get started with an R package. But just being able to share like really cool things with the community is why I love it and why I still do it.
Absolutely. And Isabel, I think that you can probably chime in here with how you got started with Python package building too.
Yeah, I think mine was more of like a villain origin story, where I was doing ML ops at a different company, and there were these tools that were made for moving models around, and it felt like it was more built for a cloud architect persona rather than a data scientist persona. And Posit at that point was still called RStudio, but had a job opening for MLOps Python packaging. And I thought, I've had these exact struggles, so maybe I can be part of the change I want to see in the world.
An excellent reason. Everyone, I really encourage you to go forth and try to build your own package in either Python or R. Nobody has to see it. You can just build it and do nothing with it and play with it and say that you built a package. Don't feel like you have to go be too exposed or anything. I know it makes people nervous going, oh, well, people will see it. No one actually has to. You don't have to submit it to Crayon. You don't have to put it on PyPI. Like you can just make it and show your friends. Thank you so much for that question, Saptarishi. Okay, I had one that I found. Here it is. It is an anonymous question. I'm going to highlight it so that it can go to the top. It is, what are your personal tips for working with code bases you're not familiar with or getting up to speed on inherited, complicated code? And I have thoughts of my own, but we'll hop back to Davis for this one as well, and I'll hop to Isabel after. Do you have any tips, Davis? He's thinking. He's thinking so hard.
Yeah, yeah. So, I was just, I'll share like my general tips and then also one new thing. So, like, it's a lot of just like getting in there and looking at the examples and the tests, I feel like are actually a really nice way to like kind of understand how something works is like I go and look at the tests and I run them and that actually gives me like little slices of examples of what the thing is supposed to be doing. Because often like if there are no documentation and like a really, really big package or whatever, like I just don't know what a certain thing does. But like looking at the tests is often a nice way to get an idea of how this thing is supposed to work. Um, but recently, like with all the AI stuff lately, like Lionel Henry, one of my colleagues, has been using this thing called DeepWiki a lot, which is like you give it a GitHub repo and it will like index the whole thing, and then you can just ask it questions, and it will like, how does XYZ work in this in this package or whatever, and it will give you pretty detailed answers about how it's supposed to work, even without documentation. Like it will analyze the whole repo itself and then give you some kind of like documentation that's easy to consume. So stuff like that, I think is actually pretty good use of AI, some kind of like, how does this thing work type question, which kind of gets you unstuck a lot of times.
Excellent. Isabel, what do you think? And I'm hoping that we can go find the Deep Wiki link. Somebody put that in the chat for us, please, please, please.
I got it. Yeah.
All right, awesome.
I would have to echo a lot of what Davis said. I think tests are a great place to start. I also think perhaps this is obvious, but perhaps it's not to like use the thing first and think about like, okay, I used this class when I was trying to build this model, and then kind of following the path that you know is most used to help understand kind of framing of what people are doing. AI is also getting really good at looking at even very large code bases. So I often will be like, can you just explain this to me to like Claude Code or whatever? And it does a decent job.
Excellent. And my advice is I have a sticky note that says aggressively ignore in all caps because I'm a side quester. And if I get into a new code base and I'm trying to help somebody debug something, I get so distracted because I'm like, oh, I don't know how this whole thing works. Therefore, it's too overwhelming and I can't figure out anything. But if I aggressively ignore everything else, and I got this advice from another programmer who gave a talk, and I can't remember his name, so I'm like plagiarizing here. But if I aggressively ignore everything else, and I'm like, okay, well, I need to fix this one thing, and I just use that thing that I need to fix as the root of my exploration, how do I figure out how just this one thing works, its inputs and its outputs? I can get through so much more easily. And then that gives me a little bit more context about the entire code base. And then I can go from there and branch out. It's kind of like reading a book backwards, but it absolutely works for me. Um, and I had another question here pop up. It was from Arsenis. I think it's a great one. And I have the same question too. So, Arsenis, if you are available to ask that one live, I'd love that.
Sure.
I'm going to
Oh,
highlight it in Slido.
cool. Thank you. And thank you, Davis and Isabel, for chatting with us today. My question is about kind of in your work as you work on these tools for people working in R and Python. How much of what you actually build when it comes to like packages and things of that nature do you write in the respective language that you're writing for? For example, Tidyverse for R, when you're writing that stuff, how much of it is in R versus stuff that's in Rust or C++? And the same for Python. How much of it is in Python and all that versus maybe using other languages to speed things up or other types of things?
This is a great question. I think for packages, it's way more likely that you're going to be writing Python for Python or R for R. But when it comes to tools like Positron, especially when it comes to things that are like maybe slightly more language agnostic, so the actual, when you are running Python code in Positron, that is a lot of Python. But all of the buttons around it, and like shuffling information from what you've executed in Python to things like the Data Explorer involves a lot of JSON and TypeScript. So the closer you are to the language, probably the more likely it is that it is in that language. Um, Davis might have slightly different opinions after building Arc, but in my world, that is what things generally look like.
Yeah,
Davis, I'll throw to you.
I have slightly different experience just because of like where, like the things that I work on. Like I work on the tidyverse, but I also work on like the low level parts of the tidyverse, like vectors, which is like a power that or a package that has algorithms that kind of power the rest of the tidyverse. And like if you look at like the GitHub overview of vectors, the languages inside of vectors, right? It's like this is an R package, but it's like 50-50 whether it's C or R. So I am very often working in C for better or for worse.
My favorite thing is
So
when I do something like my Quarto website or whatever, and I throw it up in GitHub and it's like, you've written a bunch of like JavaScript and CSS and Lua. And I'm like, no, I didn't, but it looks like I did. How impressive is that? Okay,
My
let
community organizer brain or heart just like dropped when I saw the screen share, and then I was like, oh wait, Davis is sharing something. It's okay.
we're not being taken over on Zoom. Yeah. Um, Davis is a co-host, so he can hop on and share anything he likes. All right, let's talk about Quarto for a second because there are so many questions about Quarto. I'm going to roll them together if I can. Give me 1 second here to find stuff in Slido. I feel like most things here are anonymous today, which is so rare. So there was one that was around, um,
Are you looking for like the air and autocomplete one?
aha, yes. It seems like air doesn't work inside code chunks in Positron when making Quarto documents. Is this on the roadmap? That sounds like a bug to me. And then there's a follow-up one that's like, is it possible to change the Python Quarto formatter in Positron without using an extension? I think that these are very similar questions. Davis, would you like to attempt that one or, both of these rolled together?
I may have to ask you about the second one again whenever we get to there. But the first one, as long as you're in Positron in a Quarto document in source mode, not in visual mode, it should work. Air should work.
Mhm.
You may have to, like, there's some documentation on our website about the fact that you have to set like format on save to true for Quarto documents in particular. But it should work. Don't remember
Yeah.
the second question.
So the second question was, is it possible to change the Python formatter in Quarto without using an extension? And that's possibly the exact same solution is to turn on format on save.
Yeah, like you, Isabel, do you want to answer? I think we
Or
both
if
know,
or
but I
is it
think you
just
can
like you don't
answer.
want to use rough and you want to use something else?
You should be able to use the command palette. So if you do like Command Shift P, and then if you type in format, I don't remember the exact command, but like if you type in format, there should be something where it's like configure formatter. And if you have a formatter extension installed, you should be able to swap it. I don't know that you can change it without an extension installed. Um, it's possible that you can, and I do not know about it. But I personally have not done that before.
All
The main
right.
thing, the main thing to know is that like if you want Python formatting to be different in Quarto, you configure your Python formatter, and Quarto will just use that as long as you've
Yes,
also told Quarto to actually format your files.
correct. It's going to inherit whatever your overall Python language formatter is. And for anybody who would like to know how to do that, Isabel and Davis actually joined me on the data science lab, which we're doing on Tuesdays, and we walked through positron settings, like a really friendly intro. If you've never done it, if you've never set your own key bindings, if you haven't explored formatting with Aaron Ruff, which is, all bundled into positron, you just have to enable it. Um, that episode will go up on YouTube by the end of this week. So, look at my LinkedIn. I will probably share something about that. It will be in a data science lab playlist that's in the Posit channel, just like we have the playlist for the data science hangout. Okay, I have a question from Renato, and I would love if you could ask that live, and we can
Thank
we can
you.
start with Isabel on this one.
Thank you, Libby.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, you guys are fortunate that you work on things for a living that we kind of um, uh, work on for fun in our own time. And I was wondering if you have, so what are your side projects if you work on cool things all day? And what do those look like? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I have done in the past, I haven't been as active in the last quarter or so, but I was part of PyOpenSci as they do like a rotational editor in chief. So being part of that like Python science community, it's peer-reviewed packages. So for folks who, want to learn how to build packages and then like want to have someone to walk through and make sure, their documentation looks good and just kind of building a community around that. So there's something called R OpenSci, which is the R flavor of this. So that was really fun. I have an even more fun. I'm going to share my screen. Don't be scared, Rachel. I just redid my website, and it's a Quarto website, and it's very exciting to me. So I drew everything. And these are all little buttons. And so my most fun one is I did like a Spotify wrapped type of thing
Oh,
for what
wow.
I'm reading. It's not the most beautiful thing right now, but I had a lot of fun. So this was my fun time. You can also like pet the cat and it meows.
Shut
So
up. Oh my
it looks
gosh, I
terrible
love
on
it so
mobile.
much.
Don't judge what it looks like on mobile.
Oh my gosh, can you share the link in the chat? Like, I would love that. Okay, so Davis, let's hop to you. Fun projects. Isabel, please share in the chat. I love this. I always want to like paint or draw my own things for my website too, and I'm like, don't have the patience. You're an inspiration.
I'm very boring in comparison. I actually don't do that many like data sciencey projects outside of work. Like work is very fun, and I like to spend time like at work doing work stuff that I really enjoy, and I really am blessed to get to do that. But outside of work, I don't do that much like R-related things. Like I
Yeah.
spend a lot of time like at the gym, like I said, but I also read a lot, like love the Cosmere type books, and you'll just find me with one of those books all the time. Very little computer stuff outside of work.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, Renata, for the good question. And nobody asked me, but I also like love doing side projects, but also tend to not do them in R. I do have a couple of side projects that I've worked on in R and Python. But I figured since we're talking about books, I would shout out that like somebody asked me my favorite data science project I've ever done, and it's actually I analyzed the first 11 books of The Wheel of Time because I'm a Wheel of Time fan too. So I did an NLP analysis of gendered entities. I did a power and submissiveness comparison. It was so much fun. There's so much more to do on it, but I just got like really, really blessed to take a NLP self-study course or independent study course with one of my IS professors in grad school, and it was so much fun. Okay, um, let's hop over to our Slido. And forgive me for a second while I go and mark Renato's as answered and we move on. Kylie, you had asked a question. Would you like to hop in and ask that live? And Kylie, we've missed you. Kylie went to Australia
Yes,
and her
hello.
time zone completely changed.
Yeah, I now live in Australia, but I'm back in Europe, so I can join. Anyway,
Yay.
my question is about documentation. So there are some awesome packages out there, but some of them have really crappy documentation. And so I was just wondering how you both approach writing documentation, specifically because the person who's designing the package can often be not the best person to understand the target user's needs.
I will let Isabel hop in with this one. She looks like she's thinking.
Okay. Um, I think I have a bad answer, which is it's a skill and it helps if you just write a lot and then especially like explaining it to a coworker or a friend or a dog of like how would I show someone this package? Like if I had a reprex or like your reproducible example, what would I give to somebody to like do the most common path through this package? So I think like the idea of a getting started page, which is, I mean, that is essentially what a getting started page is often like the most important page on all of your documentation for people who are just discovering a package. I use tools like QuartoDoc. So if you're familiar in the Python land of like Sphinx, this is kind of like Sphinx, but it uses Quarto websites, which I am Quarto's number one fangirl. So I think having the right tooling that makes writing docs accessible and feel easier for you really helps as well. I was not a huge RST fan, so being able to find a tool that made writing docs a little bit easier felt good. But I think, yeah, giving somebody something they could just copy and paste to get started and just a little bit of prose around it. This is maybe another place where AI is helpful to be like, hey, imagine you're a beginner who's never heard of this before. Does this documentation make sense? Or what am I missing? I think are good places to start if you don't have someone to pair through documentation with.
Yeah, I love it. It's like when you build a chart and you're like, I understand this. Give this to your partner and be like, hey, no background. Do you understand this? And if they have no clue what's going on, you have a pretty good idea that you need to make some changes. Davis, how about you?
It's certainly a skill, and like the places where I feel like I have to exercise the skill the most are in like vignettes, like this type of getting started like page. But like there's two things that I really like about writing vignettes. One is that I feel like I step back and I have to like write a story, kind of. Like the best vignettes to me are when they have like one data set and you go through like 10 different things in the package that you can do with that one data set. So the user isn't like context switching between like what the data actually is behind the scenes, and they can focus only on like what are you trying to teach them about this package and how it works? And then the other thing that I really like about vignettes is that it kind of proves to me where I have holes. Like there's like holes in dplyr if like as you're writing the vignette, you're sitting there going, why is this so hard? Like I can't figure out exactly how to write this, or it's really hard to explain. if it feels hard to explain, we've probably just done it wrong. And that gives you a good chance to go back and be like, let me try this again.
Yeah, I like my advice is do some teaching and just get good at teaching. And that will help you see where the holes are in understanding for people because you will explain something and they will say, wait, what does that mean? And you're like, oh, I skipped context. And you'll start to notice the places where you're skipping context when you're writing documentation. But yeah, I feel like the best thing is have somebody else write your documentation who's not you, who's not an engineer, who didn't build it, because then they will ask you every single question for every single gap in knowledge. And it will end up being great, or just have somebody review it if you can. Excellent question, Kylie. Thank you so much. And it's so good to see you. We had one in Slido that was anonymous and it has risen to the top here. It is, what are interesting trends in data science that you're noticing? And there was a little follow-up on it because you can add replies in Slido that says, I've noticed that people are coding more using multiple languages and a workflow rather than just solely coding in R or Python. And I noticed that I do that myself as well. I'm like, oh, I know that this better tool in Python or this better tool in R, and I just, because I'm in Positron and it's so easy to do both, I will combine them. Um, do either of you have thoughts about trends in data science that you're noticing?
Have a micro trend that is
Go for
Python
it.
specific where people are pulling out pandas as a dependency. So a lot of times in Python, like plotting libraries, modeling libraries, you would have your default data frame to be pandas, and so you would carry this around as a dependency. But with the rise of new tools like Polars, which is way faster and like Rust-backed, not everybody is using pandas all the time. So there's actually this really cool tool called narwhals that it's like data frame agnostic. So a lot of people are, removing pandas and putting narwhals in its place, but just a little bit of like shifting to allowing people to have more options, which is probably really similar to this multiple languages trend, where people are learning that there's so many cool tools out there and being given the option to use them for the right task. That is a very niche Python trend that I've been seeing a lot.
Awesome. Davis, any trends or micro trends that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think to me it's like opinionated tools are like where it's at. Like Rough and Air are very opinionated, but like very well loved. And then like UV is like another thing that's like it's got some opinionated things behind it, but like they have just crushed it in like terms of virtual environment management and package management in Python. And like it very much feels like we need something similar in R that's like also very opinionated, but then just like crushes it in terms of like, it's outside of R. It's a command line tool that's opinionated. And I don't know, that feels like where it's at in terms of like tooling lately.
Yeah, and RV does exist, but I haven't used
Yeah,
it
it
yet.
does. Yeah.
If anybody has used RV and has opinions about it, please hop in the chat and let me know. Um, all right. Well, speaking of trends in data science, we had another anonymous question that was how you leverage AI in your work. So do you leverage it? Testing, helping you figure things out, learning? What are your thoughts on AI? And I will let whoever would like to go first here. Let's see who unmutes first. It's Davis.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. How do I put this shortly? Like I used to be like a big AI skeptic. Like I didn't use it very much. I didn't want to. And I still don't use it a ton, but like I do find like I get a decent amount of value of Claude Code when I ask it in very certain ways to do things. Like I always have it make a plan first, and then we can like reevaluate the plan together before it actually does any work. Like I find that I get a ton of value out of doing it that way. I use it to write tests. I use it to rubber duck quite a bit. I use it for things that are just like more monotonous tasks. I don't really let it go haywire in terms of like writing an entire new like dplyr function for me or anything that typically requires too much like overall architectural knowledge and thought than what I can explain to Claude. Um, but I do use it. It's just not like for everything all the time. It's not like it doesn't feel like it's like replacing me. It just feels like it's enhancing me.
I like that. And I'm still in the AI skeptic curmudgeon camp that I just sort of like grapple with that all the time. So I do use it, but sparingly in the right ways and the stuff that feels comfortable for me. Isabel, how about you?
Yeah, I think my intro to AI was using it for tests because that felt like a well-scoped, safe place to start with AI. As I used it more, I feel like my most successful use cases are places where I know exactly what the code was going to look like, but maybe it's like quite broad, broad in like multiple files, many lines of code, but I know exactly how I'd want to structure it. And like AI can type faster than I can. So being able to review the code that I knew what it was already going to look like is way easier. There is this like weird changing of, like burden of, are you more of a reviewer now than somebody who codes if you use AI all the time? And I think like maybe in some ways I've gotten better at reviewing code now that I do it slightly more often as I review AI code. But I also try not to let it just go haywire. And it is a dangerous game if you're sending your colleagues code that you haven't looked at. Like that doesn't seem like a good way to practice or a good standard of practice for anybody. Um, but yeah, I think there's definitely places where I really enjoy it and I think it's useful. But I would not let it go off on its own. I would not vibe code and prod. Maybe for a, side project. But that's kind of where I
Yes.
stand.
Yeah, I like using it for stuff that I know how to do, but I don't want to do, where I'm like, ugh, I need to make a diagnostic plot, and I don't remember this exact geom, and I'm really bad at geom tile. So, like, do it for me, and I know what it's supposed to look like, and I can read it and know that it's not going to run or it's going to run. That's what I do. Somebody mentioned rubber ducking in our documentation conversation, so I would introduce my duck, which is like the cutest possible rubber duck. Some of them are not very cute. Very cute that my friend Mary gave me. Um, I think he's Munchkin brand if you would like your own rubber duck, but his name is Rocket. Yeah, Kelly just asked, does your duck have a name? Absolutely. His name is Rocket, like Rocket Raccoon. All right. I would love to hop in and ask one very quick question because somebody mentioned it and I forgot to say something. Davis, we need to know about your hexes on your back wall because they're so super cool. What are they? Who made them?
Yeah. Um,
Oh, we're
My
getting a
wife
tour.
made these. Yeah, my wife made these for I think for my
Oh,
birthday last year.
A plus
Um,
wife, A plus.
they're wooden and they're about the size of your hand. And they're very cool. There are packages that I have either created or worked on over the years. And she did a fantastic job. I've
That
asked for
is
more.
amazing.
I've asked for more, but she said that like some of them just like painstaking detail.
Yeah.
And she's like, I will never do another one of those. Like the ones, of course, the ones that are my favorite and that I want more of. But she's like, they were horrible to do. So
This is your fault for making for
I know,
the air one being way too complicated. Because when I think
basically.
about a hex that I would not want to paint, it's air. I have those like 6 or 8 inch wooden hexes in one of my shopping carts online, and it's been there for like 2 years because I have wanted to do this for a really long time, and I haven't. So that's fantastic inspiration. If your wife ever wants to blog about that, hit me up. She could do it on my blog. It's exciting. Okay, well, I would love to get in at the 45-minute mark. We have 15 minutes left and ask a question that we always try to ask, which is career advice. If you were going to give somebody a piece of career advice who is in a similar position as you in data science or in engineering for data science, what would it be? And I will put Isabel on the spot first.
Yeah, I know you had prepped us that this question is coming, and I feel
Did
like I've had a
did
lot
you
of
think
like
about it?
cheesy one-liners that go through my head about it. Um, so I'm gonna cheat and have two small pieces of advice. One of them is just quoting you, is stop networking, start making friends. I think it is like the most beautiful thing. Like at PyData, I just sat and like nerded out with somebody about crafts for so long, and like she's the leader. It's Faye. She's the leader of PyData Boss, PyLadies Boston, coolest human being ever. And also makes really fun like art. And I think having those like genuine fun community connections are amazing. And also doing it scared, like if you're scared of like, I don't know how to write a package, that's fine. Like, do it scared. No one's gonna judge you, and if they do, like that's on them. That's not on you. So try it anyway. Don't don't worry about being bad at things. That's the beauty of being a beginner. So just do it scared.
Do it scared, and you don't have to do it alone. Also, like we have the Discord server, and I'm gonna put a link again. This link is good for the next like 5 hours or so. Go and join. It's such a safe and happy place to share the stuff that you're working on and ask questions. And like, it's so much safer than Twitter or, LinkedIn, where you're like, oh, it feels a little unsafe. It's huge. Put it on the Discord server. You could tag me in it. I'll look at it and tell you what I think or encourage you. It's so worth doing. All right, Davis, how about you?
Yeah, so mine is stolen. Stolen from Hadley actually, who he has said before that he purposefully made a decision a number of years ago to just be nice to people. Like he gets GitHub comments and issues all the time that are like people being super frustrated with something, super upset, like mad at him kind of thing. And like he has the ability to, say whatever he wants back, but he always takes a moment and is just nice. Like he's just nice to these people in return because like you never know exactly when that is gonna like who's gonna see that message, like what kind of community is gonna be built around that. Like he's in a position of a lot of like influence these days. And just by being nice, he's been able to like have that trickle down throughout the entire like R and Tidyverse community. Like we all feel like this community is very nice. And I think a lot of that is in part of people being at the top, like are also just very nice people. Him and Tarif and JJ are all just fantastic people to be around and hear from. They're all just super nice. And
They
if you
are.
want more of that, then you should do that too, kind of thing.
Yes, be the change you want to see in the world. And I also, this is something that I don't know if people really realize, but when someone looks at your LinkedIn profile, especially if you don't post very much original post of your own, the very first thing they see is a gallery of the comments that you leave on other people's LinkedIn posts. So if they are seeing a gallery of mean, nasty comments that you've left, that is your calling card to the digital world. Not a great look. It's not good. But what that also means is go be nice to people. Go be the person that other people want to work with. Because if you're on LinkedIn to find a job, that's what you want, right? Um, I put a as a sort of like housekeeping, we were at the end of our show thing. I put a poll in Slido as well, and it is anonymous. Nobody will see your answer, but it is, hey, we're working on a end of year survey for the Hangout, and I would love to know what you want to know about the data community so that I can help ask some of those questions. And then that means next year we will have some of those answers. We can get as many people as we can to answer our survey and be as nosy as you like. They can be funny questions, they can be very serious ones. Um, Go nuts. Please let me know what you think. I will leave that poll open, but you can also continue asking in the Q&A. So we have 10 minutes left, and I want to hop over to a question that I have in Slido that is anonymous, and it says, data science and infrastructure really interests me, but it's so easy to get discouraged or feel like I'm beating my head against a brick wall when something goes wrong. How can I be more resilient and keep coming back to it? Coming back to data science, coming back to infrastructure, even when it is really, really hard. And I will throw this one to Davis first, putting you in the hot seat at different intervals here.
It is hard. I mean, it's hard when, especially when like it's a project that you're not necessarily that interested in and you're having issues with it. So like if it's a project that you're like you would love to see this thing completed, like I feel like it's a lot easier to like learn the thing that you're struggling with. Like you're willing to spend the time because you like have a feeling that the outcome is going to be worth it. So it like my only advice there is try to find things that like really interest you if you're also learning something new at the same time and like kind of coincide those together if possible. It is very hard if like you're just not that interested in the thing and you're struggling with it. Like that's, I'm sorry, that really sucks if that's the case. Like that's very hard to learn something new.
I agree. Isabel, you have any words of wisdom?
I like to think of my code as like it's a living document, it's a living tool. It's going to change over time. And like I've gotten some bad haircuts, so like if you write code and you have to take it back out later, like, oops, your code got a bad haircut. The hair will grow back. We'll fix it. So I think realizing that things will change, you're going to write bugs, you're going to write amazing things as well. And the only way it's cheesy, it's bad, but like the only way to truly fail at it is if you stop and then you never come back. So keep going. I saw the reply of someone's like, at some point your forehead is stronger than the brick wall, and I love that. I think that's amazing.
That's amazing.
At some point, your skin is thicker. I think Edward had said, as a comment in Slido, to learn to love the sandpaper feeling of brick on your forehead is the first part of that. And it's true. Like sometimes you can start to feel that like, oh no, this is really hard feeling. And if you've been through it enough, you'll be like, oh, that means that change is around the corner. That no longer means that it's, impossible forever. And I think Jenny Bryan in her Hangout episode said like, you know, time box it or bound this into a thing so that it's not just like this is misery forever, this is impossible forever. Like give yourself a self-contained problem to work on. As a person who teaches adults to code, I will tell you that learning things and sucking at them as an adult is hard. Like we've lost our sucking at things muscle because when we're kids, we suck at everything. We're learning and nobody cares. So think about learning a new language that's a spoken language. Little kids don't care that they say things wrong. Little kids don't care that they only speak in incomplete sentences. Little kids aren't shamed for, you know, talking in sentences that are sort of caveman like, right? Like what it doing, how it doing that, right? As we're learning a new language, a spoken language as an adult, we beat ourselves up if we have to talk like that because we think that we need to have a discussion about profound topics. We need to be able to talk about astronomy and the arts and all of these things. No, you just have to learn to speak in those basic sentences. Be so much nicer to yourself. And also don't do it alone. Go make friends. Go join the Discord, hang out on Blue Sky. Don't do it by yourself. Okay, we are reaching the very last moments of our wonderful hangout today. It's been so fun. We have about 5 minutes left, so let's hop into one more question here. And it is, let's see, we had a couple that I thought I could fit in at the very end. Marcus is asking about keyboard preferences, which is a cheat. I don't know if either of you are keyboard people, but I am, and he knows it. Isabel and Davis, are you keyboard people? Really quickly while I'm finding my question.
I have purple switches. I actually don't know which one, but I have a keyboard tester, and I think I'm gonna get, I think it's called like golden banana or something. Marcos knows which one it is. There's a specific thing where you can get like a panel of like 25 or 100 different keyboard switches, and it's just one key, and you can try it out. I have mine. I actually, I don't know if I can find it in the amount of time we have left, but I have one, and I'll post it somewhere maybe.
Okay, cool. I have two Gateron testers that are pretty small, like a regular profile and a low profile. And the switches that I am putting into a board as we speak are the Gateron root beer floats, which are a collaboration. They're tactile. I really, really like them. And I got them pre-lubed because I just can't, I just do not have the patience. I have the lubricant, I just do not have the time. Davis, are you a keyboard person?
No, I'm blissfully ignorant, so that whole conversation just went so far over my head. Like I have no idea what you just said.
No worries. That conversation was so niche and it was for like two people. And if you are those people, you know who you are. But I found my question. It was from Natasha. Natasha has a little asterisk, so I'm going to ask this for her, but it's a great question. It's what is the best way to report bugs in packages? I'd imagine that it's best to include a small example of the issue, but I'm not sure where I would go to bring attention to it. What a great question, Natasha. Davis, would you like to go first?
Yeah. Um, So we'll drop some links, but there's a package for helping you create reproducible examples called Reprex. So that will help you create the thing that you need to share. But then where to share it, like if you have an issue with dplyr, for example, like you can go to dplyr's issue page on GitHub and you'll just see like a whole bunch of issues. So you can open a new issue, drop in your reproducible example right there. And we love to hear things like that. We want to know when things are wrong. We want to know when it doesn't do something that you hope it would do. That's how we learn like what the gaps are inside of dplyr or inside of the tidyverse, and it's how we build it out to be kind of what you guys need.
Fantastic. I think that covers it. Isabel, do you have any add-ons? If not, totally okay.
No, I think that covers it. As long as you have something that we can like copy paste and reproduce the example in clear steps, that's going to make it 1000% easier to solve your problem.
Sweet. And there's one more question that I think we can pop in right at the end here, 60 seconds each, and it's from Frank Kovacs. Frank, I'm going to read it for you because we're at the end of our line here. It's how does full-time open source dev work compare to full-time in-house dev work? Have you done both? Is there a difference? If you haven't, that's totally okay too.
You
Isabel, have
know,
you done one
open
or the
source since
other?
the beginning. Yeah,
Open
so I
source since the
know.
beginning. Okay.
I've been like primarily open source, like Positron, of course, there's like kind of workbenchy implications and then kind of open sourcey implications, so we straddle that line a lot. I would say it's quite similar. I have felt like more on the size of the team matters, necessarily more than open source, not open source. Smaller teams, you're probably going to work a little faster if you have less process. Larger teams, you might have like QA steps or something like that. So I would say it's more size of the team than where your code is after.
Sweet. And since we got that in really quickly, I will pop in one last more because I think somebody asked, do you have any tips for getting started with Positron? And I will say, go watch our data science lab episode. But do you have any quick tips as we go? They're thinking. We're putting you on the spot over and over today. Go ahead, Davis.
There's lots of fun extensions out there. Like I think adding the fun theming and stuff that makes it just look really cool is just like a fun way to get started, and it kind of shows you how like unique and customizable this thing is, and particularly in compared to our studio. Like it's really quite fun once you get started with Positron. It's just a fun place to be and work in.
It is.
I would say learn how to open up the command palette. If you know how to, it's Command Shift P, or there's like the little search bar at the top, and you can like click that, and it gives you a bunch of options. That is your guiding light throughout all of Positron, and that would be my one tip for everyone who's
Yep.
getting used to it.
That's it. That's the bridge of the enterprise, y'all. Everything happens there. And you can type in a word that is like mostly like what you're looking for, and it's going to help you figure it out. So if you want to have fun, open up Positron, Command Shift P, and then type in theme and go up and down and change your themes. That's the most fun thing to do for me in any IDE. Also, go into your settings. In the search bar in settings, type in RStudio and turn on the RStudio key bindings. Your life will be better if you're coming from RStudio and you would like to do both in Positron. Okay, this was a fantastic time. I hope that you answered my awesome poll in Slido. If you didn't, that Slido link is still working. Please, please, please go answer that poll if you did not have time to do it. And oh my gosh, thank you all so much for hanging out. You're gonna love our last hangout of the year is coming up, and it's Josh Starmer of StatQuest. If you are like me, you stan Josh Starmer, you love and watch Josh Starmer, so please come meet him, ask him all the questions. Isabel and Davis, thank you so much for hanging out with us. You want to say goodbye to everybody, Isabel?
Bye, thanks for having me. This was a delight.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for
Davis,
having us. It's been a great time. Nice to talk to you
wonderful.
all.
Thanks for hanging out. I'll get Davis and Isabel's episode of the Data Science Lab up soon on YouTube, so look forward to that. And we'll see you next week on Thursday or at Tuesday at the Data Science Lab because Marcos is joining us. Bye, everybody.